Hello, I'm Bobby Holik, and you're watching Nasty Knuckles.
You're listening to Nasty Knuckles, the Hockey Outlaws podcast, with your hosts, Derek Nasty Settlemyre and former Philadelphia Flyer enforcer, Riley Tocchet, as they go behind the scenes with your favorite NHL players. Time to face off.
All right, welcome back. What's happening, Nasty?
What's up, Rick Aurelia? You look like you might be in some sort of hotel room or something.
What gave it away?
I don't know the paintings because usually you're in the green room and you're not in a green room. You're in like a normal room right now.
Yep.
Bed's
Room
kind of made.
604, Landing Hotel, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
The bed looks semi-made. You know how I am, man, in a hotel. Like Elvis always gives me shit. He's like, why do you got to make the bed? Because you got to make the bed. It's the first thing you should do. You already accomplished one thing.
That's it.
And he's like, that's just weird.
He's probably like, call the maid, Dad.
I don't even think he realizes that, but
No.
he just thinks I'm nuts because I'm always losing it about his room not being
Your
clean.
ADHD kicks in first thing in the morning. I was like,
It does sometimes. I'm not gonna
Oh,
lie to you,
crinkle
buddy. What are you doing there?
well, at the Malone Family Foundation event. So was that a dinner last night in Gala?
Yeah,
Bunch of NHL alumni.
Looked fun. I saw the
Yeah, it was
pictures you
awesome.
sent me. That's so cool.
Yeah, a lot of familiar faces, and then playing in a charity game tonight.
That's
So
awesome.
we've seen a few familiar faces as well. Jeff Carter's playing.
Yep. Dude, do you imagine him? How he's gonna be buzzing?
He's gonna be buzzing.
He
He's got some fresh
just hung
pens.
him up. He's still skating with
Oh, yeah.
the extras, like I had said a while back when I saw him back in December.
Oh,
He was
yeah.
going out with the extra guys when the team was on the road, but that guy will just be buzzing him.
Yep. Oh yeah. Old Kobe Armstrong.
Yeah,
Him
Kobe.
up. Stephen Johns. I mean, a bunch of older guys. Jesse Bowler used to be playing. Jay Harrison.
Nice.
Saw him last night. He was at our table. Ben Scrivens. I saw him last night. He's
The
rocking some
Scrivkin?
old brown Cooper pads. He showed me a picture.
Nice.
Yeah,
Ben
so it'll be
Scrivens,
fun,
man.
obviously. But they got a bunch of guys. There was a ton of them last night, and a lot of the older guys aren't playing. They're just kind of coaching or just being around. Tony Granato, Kevin Stevens.
Why didn't Bugsy have me come in? I could have buzzed the boys' skates. I'm sure they'll have someone there, but probably from the Penguins.
Yeah.
maybe Danny
Next year
Crow.
we'll have to make it a package deal.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's make it a package deal.
And I got my old Tovi all sharpened up, Nast.
Oh, Tovi
scoring a
Hockey,
few.
baby. I'll tell you what,
Oh, yeah.
you already had someone asking you about the stick, didn't you?
Yeah.
Last night. Yeah.
Yeah, Christian Hansen was asking about. He wanted to see the weapon back in action. I said, I
Yes.
got it. It's locked and loaded.
You
Gonna see
got
some
it, man.
Goals tonight.
It's too bad I couldn't get you a few. We couldn't get them in your hand before you left. I know it was kind of last minute. But in saying that about Tovi, we've been working with them the last 3 to 4 years, obviously, and seeing the growth and the technology, which is absolutely, to me, second to none, because we've seen this grow in the last 3 to 4 years, like I said. And we both are jumping in with the company now. I'm going to be the head pro rep for them, and
You're official, Nast.
we're official, buddy. We there's the things happen, and there's new kind of our good friend Aaron Krause has taken over the company, and I think it's the sky's the limit. And we've talked about this stick and talked about the stick that we're blue in the face, and you put it in guys' hands, are like, oh man, this actually feels good, and actually could shoot the puck. This close, I thought we had TJ, and he, unfortunately, he hasn't played a game this year, Ocean, Washington. But anyway, I'm really looking forward to this and growing this brand. There's so many things that people don't even know about yet. The gloves are unbelievable.
Yeah. Can't wait to get my hands on those.
You've seen them, and we've had some NHL guys in them already, and they loved them. I actually have some other things coming out. Maybe I shouldn't talk about that yet, but it's I'll just throw it out there, like elbow pads, shin guards. I mean, like top of the line
Oh, yeah.
ideas. And with that technology, it's just unbelievable, especially in the glove. I think I talked about a few weeks ago, like the carbon fiber in there. It's so light but so protective. Like you could literally whack guys in the hand, and
they look pretty rad too.
And they look great. They look great. So anyway, super excited to be officially a part of them, both of us, with Tovi Hockey and leading the charge here, and along with Aaron and all the guys at Tovi Hockey, Brad, Coach, and Tovi himself, who's an unbelievable R&D guy. He's just a smart human. Just super happy, man. So you better score a couple.
Well, I'm going to score a couple. I'm going to get them on camera. I'm going to post them. Yeah.
All right.
It's right in your wheelhouse, Nas. Back doing what you do best, and
I'm excited
with the guys, keeping the energy light, fun. And moving some Tovies along the way.
Yes, sir.
In the hands, breaking some barriers.
Yep, that's right.
All right.
And guess what, Riggs? The Flyers have a new head coach.
Oh, I saw. Huge.
Our boy, Dickie, Rick Tocchet.
Oh yeah, amazing signing. That was the right signing. That was the guy.
I couldn't agree more. And I've heard already in the last day. I actually was fortunate enough. I was talking with Talk yesterday. He's obviously super excited. He started here. Like, you can go back and just look at the way he played, the energy he brought, and let's not forget he was the Jack Adams Award winner in 2024. This guy knows what he's doing, and I think, I know players like really respect him. I mean, you saw Quinn Hughes in Vancouver basically not begging or pleading, but just, I really want him to come back. It might help you getting some more free agents with a guy like that. That's a player's coach.
For sure.
Not always wants to hold you accountable, like you should be as a player. You should be held accountable, but he also gets it. He gets being a player, and he's just one of those guys. He reminds me a lot of Chief. With the way he handles himself. And I just could be more excited. I told him yesterday, I said, don't worry, I'm not asking you for a job. I'm just super excited you're here, and you got to come to the house 4 times a month. No, I didn't say it. But
he might be busy coaching in NHL.
He might be a little busy. I think you should throw your assistant coaching hat into the ring with him.
You think so? He'll be a great coach to work with.
Oh my God, how he would be great.
I'm not sure I have a standing chance in hell to ever get that job, but I'd love to be around in some way, shape, or form for sure.
Yeah,
I think it's great. I mean, I think to kind of what you're saying about kind of comparing him to Chief. He's obviously demanding. There's a style and an energy that's expected, but I think he really falls into that category of like a coach. Like, he's coaching you. He's not being a bully. And it's beyond what we've heard in the past with some other stories of some coaching styles, where it's like fear-based coaching, making guys feel less than. I think Chief and Talk have a interesting and creative way of using their humor alongside of getting the message across. Which is obviously there's a standard of play we're expecting here. We're going to work. We're going to dig in the trenches. And if we're not, and if certain individuals don't buy in, we'll call you out, but it's not going to be in, the way that is not going to get the guy going. It's going to be in a way that's going to get the guy going, but maybe with some humor, maybe with some tough love, but they certainly have a way to connect with the players, because yes, there's a respect based on their history and the way they played the game, but I think it's also their character themselves, the way they communicate, I think is super important, and why Talk has been a head coach, and a really good one. And he left a guaranteed head coaching job to come to Philly.
Yes, he did.
And that says a lot, knowing the situation, obviously knowing Jonesy and Danny and Dan Hilferty and the crew there, but I think it's great.
I do too.
I think it's great for the city, great for the team.
Yeah, I do as well. And, the other thing, we've touched on this before, I'm going to beat a dead horse here, but, a lot of people are excited, which I really think all Philly fans should be. But you get those people saying, oh, here we go again, another former Flyer. Yeah, it is another former Flyer that's gone elsewhere and been a hell of a coach. and he's coming back here because he loves the Flyers. And we've had other people that aren't Flyers come in, and it didn't work. And not to say they got to be a Flyer. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not. That's not my rant. It's just that I don't give a shit that he played here. He also played in L.A. He also played in Pittsburgh and won a cup. Like he played other places. Yes, he was a former Flyer, but
a legendary former Flyer,
a legendary,
one of the most spirited former Flyers.
I mean,
right?
you go back and just watch his highlights. Baller's probably got something in the works, actually, but this
he knows what it takes.
He
knows what type of character and energy is required to win.
Yes, he played.
As a player and as a coach, he's been around. He's had success, and it's a great fit. Yeah, there's always going to be disgruntled fans, right?
Of course, yeah.
In any which way, any direction, right? I mean, you hire a college coach, you're going to have a camp that loves it, and then you're going to have a camp that hates it. I mean,
exactly.
I could see what the fans were saying if it was just some random ex-Flyer that hasn't been coaching, and has no business being there. But like, come on, like, he stepped away from a head coaching job in Vancouver to be the head coach of the Flyers. That's got to be telling. How bad he wants to be here.
Exactly. And another thing that's, some people may say it's not really that big of a deal. This guy could be working at TNT making $2 million a year.
That's another good point.
Just to show up once a week with Biz and have a great time.
Yeah.
Yes, it's less money, but at the same time,
less pressure.
If someone asked you or I to fly to Atlanta on a Tuesday night, have a nice dinner, hang out with the boys, then shoot the shit Wednesday night, watch 2 hockey games and talk about it, and then fly home Thursday, I got my hand up. I'll do it for $500,000, buddy.
Yeah, of course you would.
I can break balls. I can break some guys' balls, but no. But in all seriousness, I'm so happy for him, and on not just the coaching aspect, but talk as well. Just an unbelievable human.
Yeah,
just a great guy. Never big times anyone. He's just a great guy. He was so good to the trainers. I mean, even when he was his second stint here, I met him as a kid and got to spend so much time. He was my favorite. I'll never forget Kevin McHale too, walking into the locker room, and my dad had the jerseys up. I was in high school, and Kevin McHale went right to. He played basketball, Riggs, just in case you're wondering. For the Celtics, he won a lot. Hey, he was a big time player.
Did he play for the Flyers?
Yeah. No, he was a basketball player. But it was just funny because the Celtics were playing the Sixers at 1, and then the Flyers had a game that night. So anyway, he's like, "Hey, can I look in the locker room?" I'm like, "Hell yeah, come on in." It's Kevin McHale. I'm just like starstruck because I'm a kid. I'm like 16. And he comes in, he points right at Talk's jersey. He goes, "Rocket Tocchet. That's my guy." Yeah, he called it Rocket Tocchet. So anyway, super happy for him, Riggs. The great guy. I think he's the right fit. I really do. I mean, what do I know? But I love the guy, and I think he, like you said, he had a guarantee, came here, he wants to do it. He's got a lot of options, and this is the option he picked. So Flyer fans should be super excited for it.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'm super pumped for it. I mean, he signed 5 years, knowing the situation.
Yes.
Quasi rebuild here still, right? I mean, probably quasi still in the rebuild, right? Early or maybe the later stages of it, but he's in it. He's in it for the long haul. Like he's in it from the continuation of the rebuild all the way through being a contender.
Yes.
And that's again telling that you leave a situation like Vancouver. Not that it was, not that they were contenders this year, but like nonetheless, he had a guaranteed job. He wanted to be a Flyer. He's been a Flyer. He's always been a Flyer. He just disappeared, get some experience to come back and take his wisdom back to Philly, leading the Flyers to Stanley Cup.
I love it. Yep. I hope he does, man. I hope he does. Riggs, we got to talk a little bit about the playoffs. Been pretty interesting. You were up past your bedtime last night. You probably could have caught that OT goal, but we'll get into that in a second. Just really quickly, wanted to just go over what's going on right now in the playoffs. And Carolina's got a shot to end the Cap season, which I think is going to happen. That's just although they're in Washington, and you know what, the one game was in overtime. We could easily be looking at a 2-2 series, but we're not. Carolina just, man. we talked about it last week and the week before. They're just so fast. They're all over you. They don't give a whole lot, man. And just the way they move the puck, like we've talked about it to her blue in the face. I did want to ask you if you saw the play Ghost made the other night on his goal where he walked the blue line.
Oh,
He's so shifty, man.
Classic Ghost right there.
Just it is
vintage.
And just kept it in the zone right on the blue line and walked it over. Like the goal was like, he just snapped it at the net. Somehow it goes in, but he's pretty good, man. And we gave him away. I'm not going to get into that again, but we literally just got rid of him, gave him away.
I miss those dynamic plays. Like he was so good at like those exciting plays where you think like the puck's out and there's no chance, and he's just like
finds a way,
fielding it almost, and making this dramatic save, settling it down, and he's so composed once he does it.
Oh my god!
And just how mobile he is with the puck there on the Blues.
When I saw him do it more than once, and I know you did too. There were times where a guy tried to flip the puck out. He would jump up. Yeah. I saw him jump up, grab it with his left hand, put it through his legs because the guy's coming this way. Put the puck down right away, grab it, put it down because you can't really close your hand on it, but you know what I mean?
Right, yep.
I'm like, dude, how do you even think to do that? Like I would think because of basketball, but like this is hockey, right? Like going through his legs with it, but the way he keeps pucks in, like you said, he's one of the best I've ever seen at keeping a puck in a zone. And just so I remember his first year when he was turning pro, his skates were left behind and he had to wear a brand new pair of skates I think we were playing probably the Rangers or the Devils. It was a training camp game, and he had to play, and he had never put those skates on before, and you couldn't even tell he had new skates on. His feet were killing him after the game because he's one of those guys that doesn't like to change his skates. I was always on him, but anyway, I just wanted to give Ghost a quick shout out because he's looking great, man.
He's dynamic.
Dynamic. Panthers. This one's just crazy, man. 3-2 over Toronto. Our boy Chief there. Last two games, Florida's scored 8-1, and they got a late goal last night. It was actually a nice goal, but Florida looks unbeatable again. I say that, like they just the last couple games, they lost the game in overtime, Toronto lost the game in overtime. That could have been 3-0. You don't know where you're at, but it's 3-2 now. Florida's up. God, they're just good, man. Every line,
top to bottom, right? Top to bottom. Yep.
Every D, they play physical. They don't have. I don't think they have a guy. Well, that's like, and you don't really have to fight. I'm not even saying that, but they just got big, tough guys that play tough, right? Like they just play tough.
And,
make it hard, on guys. Seth Jones, Ekblad, all these guys, and then you got Marshall. I don't know if you saw last night. He's going back to the bench, and the boys are yelling, "Hey, there's a scrum! There's a scrum!" So he skates back, and you can see Kelly Sutherland saying something to him, like, "Probably don't do anything fucking dumb, Brad." And he goes in, and he just calmly puts a reverse chokehold on Willie Stiles, and he looks like he's turning red. And maybe it just was me, like, looking at it real quick, but I don't know if he tapped out, but I was like, what the fuck is this guy doing? But it's comical, right?
Classic,
it just makes me laugh watching them. But anyway, they're up almost dominant efforts the last 2 to 3 games by Florida.
Yeah. What about Bob Nast?
Just looks so solid the last 2 games. Looks like he's not going to get scored on. He finally did last night. But man, he just looks square to the shooter. Big. He looks big in the net, man.
He looks
poised.
Yeah.
I felt bad for Joseph Wall because I really didn't think he played poorly last night. I thought he played well in Florida as well. But when you got guys throwing up blind passes up the middle because they're afraid they're going to get hit, not to shit on a guy. I'm talking about Mitch Marner, man. Last night, like I was messaging. Well, I mean, if it connected, but there was no shot it was connecting, and it ends up in your net. You got to stay connect. You got to stay connect. Matthews doesn't have a goal in this series, and I'm not saying he's not trying, but this is what people talk about. They haven't won a second.
Just gotta break through somehow, right?
Somehow you got to find a way.
One in.
And I think it was 1 or 2-0. Lotz hits the post, like that goes in. It could be a different game. but it didn't go in, and it wasn't a different game. And I watched Chief talk after the game too last night. He's like, were you surprised at how hard Florida came out? He goes, I think they've came out hard every game. We just didn't do anything.
Yeah.
We didn't answer the bell. We weren't ready or whatever. So that I hope Toronto finds a way to push it to a game 7 at least. I don't know if they will though, man. I didn't see much fight back from the big boys last night. I thought Max Pacioretty's played hard. And more of a physical role than he ever had to before. But I don't know, man. You could dig and dig. Like I said, I was messaging Jay Rosehill last night. He's a big Toronto. He's got his show and does all the stuff with Toronto the Maple Leafs. And he's just like, I'm just sick of it, man.
Yeah.
And he blocked the Ratton deal. Could have had Ratton in there in Toronto. And now you're going to lose him. I don't know who wants to pay a guy $14 million. I know he's going to get 100+ points, but if he's not going to be able to do anything in the playoffs, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know how that one's going to play out there, but just Florida is just built better. I mean, top to bottom, and not cackling on any Toronto's pieces there. They just seem like they're maybe a step ahead. Just the way they're built. They're built for the playoffs.
They are.
So it seems like, anyways. But
it does.
Like Toronto, it could be like I don't want to say it's a curse if they're in their own head, and you know what I mean. It's like, here we go again.
That's the way it looked last night, right?
Second round, it's like, oh, here we go, and we're trying harder, and you know how it goes when you try harder, squeeze the stick harder. It doesn't work that way. It's like you got to find flow, Nast.
You got to find it. You got to find the flow. Maybe you can.
Mitchie needs a little micro before.
I was getting ready to say he needed a little flow state here.
A little flow, man.
But we could talk about that one for forever. But anyway, we'll see what happens next game. Oilers finished off Vegas. Sad to see Johnny Stevens out of the playoffs. Our good buddy, assistant coach there. But man, Oilers, they just keep surprising me, man. Like, this Skinner comes back. Cal Pickard goes 6-0. I guess he's got something happened there. He's hurt. And then Skinner steps in, 2 bagels in a row, 2 shutsies. I mean, you got to give the guy credit.
Yeah, and that's what you need, right? That's that tandem that we talk about. We've seen this before in different years and different series. You could argue when we lost in 2010 or some version of that. Like, you have to have your backup step in and play well. And in this case, he played extremely well. So that for those reasons alone, it just gives you confidence, right? Guys play, I don't know, a little bit better,
right?
A little harder for you, but whatever they're doing there, they obviously got some amazing pieces.
Exactly.
And they're built well too. I mean, it may be an Edmonton Florida final once again. Who knows?
It could be. And where I don't think he gets enough credit is Chris Knobloch. I call him Chuck. Sorry. Chris Knobloch, I call him Chuck, but this guy deserves something. I mean, that's the same team, basically the same team that other people have had, other coaches that just couldn't push him to that next level. He stepped in last year, turned the whole thing around. Got to give Paul Coffey some credit too with the D. But man, Corey Perry, I know we talked about him last week.
You just keep stepping it up,
He just keeps stepping it up, man. And it's just crazy. Like, I really didn't give them much of a chance against Vegas, to be honest. I just didn't. And they 4-1, man. They beat them 4-1. It's crazy. Our buddy Kasperi Kapanen gets the overtime winner last night. That was cool. That was pretty cool.
He was a little tyke floating around the zone.
Yeah. That's what I said to him when I saw him earlier this year. Baller and I were over seeing St. Louis, and I gave him a big hug, and I'm like, good God, man. I remember you just running around the rink. But yeah, it was pretty cool. Did you know, I got a trivia question for you. One guy on Edmonton, I think I'm correct here. One guy that is a minus player on Edmonton in the playoffs, and he's only played, I think, 1 game, maybe 2.
I don't know.
Skinner. This guy waited his whole career to get into playoffs. He finally makes playoffs. He plays 1 game, and he's the only guy. I think.
Oh my God!
I was like, "Come on, this poor bastard." I was laughing though. I'm just like, "Wow!" Like, it is what it is. But I thought it was kind of funny anyway. But moving on. Your Jets are in trouble.
Oh, they're in trouble. Helly better step it up. We need ya.
Yeah, you're gonna need him.
Yeah.
You're gonna need him.
I'm not sure you're gonna be able to stop the firepower that Dallas is bringing. Rantanen, I'm not sure you're gonna be able to stop this guy. Let's talk about him.
This guy is unbelievable. And just to go back 1 second, Skinner is the only guy that's a minus, and he's -2 in one game. And it's the only game he's played. He's waited his whole career to play the playoffs. Anyway, I feel bad. I'm not making. I don't even know the guy. That's just crazy. Anyway, Rantanen, holy cow! 11 games played. He's got 9 goals, 10 assists. I mean, he is an absolute monster out there, man. Like, it looks, last game it was funny. I was like, maybe the Magic were off a little bit because he had a chance in front. Someone kind of outmuscled him and made him kind of miss an empty net. But this guy's so good. So good. They're up 3-1. I'm not going to lie to you. It did kind of surprise me that they're up 3-1. I know we're kidding around saying it's over. I don't think it is, because that's a hard place to win in Winnipeg. And I think they'll be buzzing. I think it does go back to Dallas.
I think so too.
For a game 6. But Dallas is pretty good at home.
6, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see. But yeah, you're right. Mikko Rantanen, man, what an absolute wheel, and got traded twice there, eh? Like, during the end of the season, and he fits right in Dallas. I think he would fit in anywhere, right? Like, the guy would fit in anywhere. He's going to make everyone around him better. But he's fun to watch, man.
He is. And it's it's just amazing to see when you think of like an elite player, thinking that like that's his like max effort, and then all of a sudden he's got like another gear.
Yeah,
it's like another gear.
It is,
and there could be some I don't want to say personal reasons why he's jacking it up. Just to, I don't know, just if it's a big FU to to Colorado and everybody else, but whatever it is, for whatever reason, he's doing it, and he's on another level, and it's wild to see. So
he really is. I mean, I know we're talking about Oilers, but I mean, I can't count out the Stars yet, just because they winning game. They we'll see what they do here, but I think you're right about the Oilers and the Panthers. It could be a rematch, and I don't know which way it'll go, but we will see, buddy. We will see. Real quick, want to bring up BKFC Ice Wars, our buddy Charlie Nama. Battle of the Border Rigs, June 14th.
Lots of hype.
USA versus Canada. They're putting me and you in there because we weigh the same now. I actually lost weight. So
get in there, Nast.
Yeah, I'm not fighting you sick fuck. I'm not even going to try. But it's USA. I love the way they've done this. Charlie and the guys are just so goddamn smart. But USA versus Canada, it's at the Soaring Eagle Casino in Mount Pleasant, Michigan, June 14th, brother. And you can watch it on BKFC IW app. That's the Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship Ice Wars app. And you can also get the tickets at BKFC Ice Wars, BKFCIW.com or etix.com for that event. Can't wait to get there. Sharpen up the boys' skates, maybe sharpen up some knuckles, as Chief used to say. Sharpen up the knucks, and let's go, boys.
Yeah, man, it's exciting. I talked to Charlie the other day, and he's extremely jacked, also stressed because there's a lot of work.
It's a lot. It's a lot
of work he's been putting in, but again, like another innovation in combat sports. If you could merge MMA with hockey fighting, and scale it, well, here we have it. Ice Wars.
It's awesome,
man. Officially launching off, with BKFC and in a global way. This thing's huge. So
it is, man.
Looking forward to see. And Charlie was saying too, he's like 10 a day. He got guys reaching out wanting to fight.
Yes.
And a lot of these guys reaching out wanting to fight for free, just to get them, just to get the experience and just to basically build the resume up.
Right.
Like, where are you guys coming from? And he was telling me a lot of these BKFC guys grew up playing hockey.
Exactly.
And they basically go from the BKFC and are doing the Ice Wars, which is, I'm like, gee, I would have never even thought, but like, it makes a shitload of sense. So what a fit.
I know. I'm so pumped, man. I'm so happy we met Charlie and got involved with this because people, it's hard, man. It's hard. And this guy's worked his ass off, and it's all coming coming together, and it's great, man. I'm so
Yeah.
pumped.
And one of the most exciting parts for me is yes, innovation in combat sports. And I obviously have a different perspective on it now that I'm not a fighter, and you kind of have shifted my perspectives to some degree. But also, Charlie allowing me to kind of be part of the healing journey on the back end of some of these guys' fighters' journeys here. So I'm still working out some details there, but between some cannabis related stuff, psychedelic stuff, for mainly brain injury, right? Concussion related.
Right.
These guys are putting themselves through the meat grinder, but having some extra support on the back end, and Charlie being open to that, super, super important. And he believes it. I mean, he's seen these guys for a long time. Gino Ojic, he's seen some of these guys struggle. He knows what's up, and he knows that he's got to take care of his fighters. So props to Charlie, Ice Wars, and crew, for being vocal and also compassionate for these fighters and allowing the support system to be created. So excited, man. You be grinding.
Yep.
Be healing. Be helping these guys.
Grinding and healing, baby.
Grinding and healing, yeah.
We need to make new teas. Grinding and healing.
Grind and heal.
All right, brother.
Ice Wars.
Hey, is Sully playing tonight?
I'm not sure if he's playing.
Get Bugsy. Get Bugsy. Get Bugsy. I almost got you.
You did. I knew what you're up to.
Yeah, you did. All right.
Now we're ready.
We're ready.
Episode 201. Bobby Holik.
Let's go.
Thrash Line. Welcome back. I'm Riley Cote.
And I'm Derek Settlemyre. And this week, Riggs, we're super excited to have this gentleman join us. Former first-round draft pick for the Hartford Whalers, 10th overall in the 89 NHL entry draft. Came to North America in 1990. After that, scoring 21 goals in his first 2 seasons. In the summer of 92, he was traded to the New Jersey Devils and went on to win 2 Stanley Cups. He also played for the Rangers and the Atlanta Thrashers. He retired, Riggs, with 1,314 NHL hockey games being played with 326 goals, as well as 421 assists. He also played in 141 playoff games, which is unbelievable, scoring 20 goals and 39 assists. This gentleman was an absolute beast on the ice. He played all 200 feet, could score, shut you down, played on that famous crash line. Please welcome to the Nasty Knuckles Show, Mr. Bobby Holik. Bobby, how are you, man?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on, especially you guys are obviously, big time Philly Flyers fans. So this is going to be great for some of my friends, or at least the people I know who are Flyers fans. I'm gonna let them know we did that, and I'm happy to be here because sometimes when you constantly doing the teams that you played for, or dealing with the fans or the media, it gets old. You want somebody else's perspective, what it was like. I'll tell you what it was like for me to play one of our biggest rivals, and you can tell me what it's like to watch and now talk to somebody who played for the other team, on the other side.
Yes, for sure. It is awesome.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the things we wanted to dig in, was to get your perspective of playing against the Flyers for as many years as you did. But maybe before we get into that, just maybe talk to us about what you're up to these days, where you're at, and we'll move into the hockey piece.
Well, we lived there for, when I retired, I just moved back to Wyoming, and we were there as a family. Our daughter grew up going to school and competing in show jumping all over the country. So I became almost instantly, from the moment I retired, I became a farmhand, and I'm still doing that. But in the meantime, I did other things. I worked for a firearms manufacturer from Czech Republic as a spokesperson and ambassador. I coached high school for several years. I worked with a bunch of junior teams, mostly the teams that I had friends who were running it, or GMs or the coaches. So I've been involved post-playing about 12, 13 years involved with youth hockey and youth sports. And that's outside of my family, that's been the most gratifying things I've done. And as I said, it hasn't been only hockey, but youth athletes or the junior level players. It's just a pleasure to be working with them. Even though I never had an official title or official place to be, I just went where I could, where people welcome me. And it wasn't many places, but it was enough to keep me very busy.
Yeah.
That's awesome,
sure.
Bobby. I was lucky enough to work in NHL for basically 26 years, and the last couple of years, I was helping out a junior team here in the North American Hockey League. It's right under the USHL,
Yeah.
which I'm sure you know. And
So not to interrupt you, but I was at Amarillo a few times.
okay,
I don't know if the team's still there, but I know NAHL very well.
yes. So I actually really enjoyed it. I had a great time, and it was funny. The kids would always be like, what was it like in the locker room with the Flyers?" And I'm like, "Same as here. You guys just a little bit dumber. You're not not meaning dumb, but just being
Yeah.
immature,
A
right?
little more
Like young,
immature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said, trust me, there were 30-year-olds that we knew that were just as immature as 17, 18, 19-year-old kids. But I had a blast doing it, so I can imagine you coaching and helping out would have been great. Have you thought about getting into a higher level of coaching, or are you okay with where you're
No,
at?
I have. I definitely like the young players because I feel we all have a sweet spot. Some of my peers who play, they had kids growing up, so they started with the 5, 6 year olds and they worked their way through. They volunteered. I volunteered all that time as well, and they went through all the levels and they went back to the 6 year olds. Some of them like to work with the 12 year olds. I think no, because I don't look at it just sports or at coaching, but mentoring for life. And then when boys and girls when they're 15, 16, 17 years old, there's a lot of life coming at them, and to stay focused throughout the years, hockey can help them, or sports can help them, or passion can help them navigate through those not so easy years. I mean, we all have gone through it. I was very fortunate. I was just too busy playing hockey and soccer and tennis in the summer. I didn't have time, or my peers, my friends didn't have time to get in trouble, even though we tried. But
Yeah.
with the right leadership, with the right mentors, can change young people's lives. And so I believe my sweet spot is anywhere between 16 to 25.
Oh, that's
All
awesome.
right. Yeah. That's interesting. I do a little work with a hockey academy in Philly, and it's a little bit younger. Can you speak to maybe some of the adversities that you're seeing that kids are going through now that maybe that players your age and your generation maybe didn't face? Maybe it's the technology or just like just the mental health stuff, because I see it at a younger age, between 12 and 16. But I'd like to think that these problems or these distractions or these adversities extend beyond the young youth hockey players.
Oh, definitely. One of the first things I noticed almost 10 years ago, maybe 8 years ago, the attention span for the players.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Like I compared it when we growing up, or even as young professional, you had a drill. So it took you a few minutes to really learn the drill. Then a few minutes to master it, and then a few minutes to really get into comfort zone, and the repetition makes you better. Nowadays, I would draw up a drill on a board, and they, of course, 10 seconds in, they all shaking, like nodding their heads, like, we got it, yeah, let's go, coach. Then you start to drill it. Within the moment they have a one rep that actually goes well, they're done. Their attention span is over. So that's a big difference. And unfortunately, I contributed to the technology they have in their hand all the time. But that's one problem that we as young youth sports mentors and coaches, we need to pay more attention to and explain to them. You cannot master a drill when you do it twice. You might have to do it 20 times, or when you're learning how to open up for a shot for a one time, twice is not good enough. It's 20 times today, 30 times tomorrow, and then you go. That's probably the biggest challenge. It's the attention span. The challenge that's for the youth, for the kids. The bigger challenge is adults, parents,
Oh
adults in
yeah.
general in youth sports. And it's either the parents they think that their life is the reflection on them, or their sons or daughters' performance. They are emphasize the result. They emphasize achievement.
Yes.
Instead of emphasizing effort and discipline, and emphasizing the idea that when you do accomplish something with a group of friends, group of teammates, it's going to be far more rewarding than if you do it on your own. And the parents are in it for their own kid. They're in the wrong way, and I that's one of the reasons I had to step away and to take a break, because the parents or adults we're just causing it not being fun. And
Yes.
I would never blame the kids, because they only know what we teach them.
That's right.
And
Right.
a lot of times you're dealing with 16-year-old who has got incredible skills, incredible, skater and everything. But when you put him out there with the 4 other players, he can't play, because all his life he was told, do it on your own, do it your own, stand out, stand out. And so in hockey, it's hard when you get a 16-year-old trying to convince him that if he shares the puck, if he's the best player on the ice, he can make others better. It's tough at 16. We should be doing it at 6, and that should be the parents doing it. I, as a coach, I'm going to emphasize it. I'm going to reinforce it at practice, but it should come from home. And then and one last thing before we move on is a lot of people take advantage of parents and kids for their own financial benefit, and I think that's also a problem. So it seems like youth sports have a lot of problems. They do. But ultimately, we don't want to give up on it, because it means it's a great way to grow up participating, especially in team sports.
Yeah.
Couldn't
Yeah,
have
well
said that
said.
better myself.
And
My
Nasty
son
knows all
yeah,
about those. He's got a
Yeah.
he got a 10-year-old that's right in the thick of it.
Yeah.
And I see it from a different perspective, but everything you're saying is so true. Attention span and just the doubling down on just like repetitions on the simple foundational skills, right? You have to go above and beyond in the repetition. The parents, I mean, it's a nightmare. The mental health issue is trickling down, right? The inability to self-regulate is passed down to the
Yeah.
children. And like you said, like it's taught, it's learned behavior, the environment it's being created, and it's very, very real. Maybe Nas can speak a little bit more on that, because it's these are problems, and they need to, we need to be part of the solution and find ways to
Yes.
correct some of these things, because they're not going away. They just need to be addressed, and maybe just bring more awareness to them.
Go ahead.
No, it's okay, Bobby. Go ahead.
No, you said self. What did you call it?
Self-regulation.
Self-regulation. That's a new word. I call it discipline or self-control. It comes, one or the other. And if it's self-regulation, fine. But the idea that you're not the biggest thing on the ice, that the game is bigger, that the officials are more, important, your teammates, that you're just one of many. That idea is very hard to understand for that kid's parents. They're like, no, my Johnny or my Thomas, he's the greatest here. And then their attitude spills on the kids,
Right.
and the kids don't treat their teammates right. And again, it's not that the kids are bad. It's just that's what they learn, that they're special. They are special in their own way as a human being. But as a hockey player, I only saw a few special hockey players. Gretzky was one of them. Mario Lemieux, Sidney Crosby. Those are special hockey players.
Yes.
We all unique individuals, but we have to earn that right to be, to be lifted up as this kid is really good, or this kid is really hardworking. That you get that if you earn it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah. Very, very well said. I like Riley said, my son's been playing since he was 5, and he plays, AAA, and I feel like there's a lot of pressure, on these kids at a young age. But to your point about what they hear from their parents, you're exactly right, because there's things that I've heard kids say at 9 years old, and they didn't think of it. It's what they were told.
They couldn't.
They were told that in the car, or they overheard. But it's not something that 8 and 9-year-old kids would say to one another. And you're totally right. I'm actually really fortunate. The team that my son's on, he's a 2014, and we have the best group of parents. Everyone's on the same page, and there's some good, like you said, really good hockey players. That he's lucky to play with, but the special players, like you said, there's a lot of parents telling their kids, "Oh, you're this, you're that." Like you said, you got to work hard, do all the right things, and if it works out for you, it works out for you. But you want to have fun, especially. That's what it's the last thing I say to my son every game: have fun. Have a good time.
And a lot of times the fun is not winning championships. A lot of times the fun is just overcoming difficulties with your teammates, and it applies to a 2014 year or young professionals in the National Hockey League. Everybody wants to have fun. Doing the great and fabulous things, but if you find fun in the struggle, in the competition, in the hard work. I remember, when I started playing, how much my lower back hurt, how much my thighs burned when we were skating. And we did a lot of skating as kids, in Europe. That was based all on skating. And I still remember those pains. But every one of us felt that. And it's fun. And then you can, after the practice, you've done something, you've earned something, like the even if it's just the praise of your coach or mentor or your parents. But the idea that we will tell them that they're great at it and that's going to make them great, it just doesn't work. It's all about earning it. It's all merit based, and we've gotten away from it as a sport, as a country, as a Western civilization, and hopefully we can get back to it.
Yeah, I agree.
That's so true.
Speaking about younger kids and these junior players, you came over here as a 19-year-old, from Central Europe. What was that like going from there to Hartford, Connecticut? Like, what was that like? I just can't imagine, from behind the old Iron Curtain, if you will, or whatever.
Yeah, no. That's what it was. Literally, yeah. You could almost see the Iron Curtain because we couldn't go west unless you were good at sports. There's no way we could travel to Sweden or United States or Canada if you weren't a good tennis player or hockey player. So there was a literal curtain that shut us out. But two things helped. First, coming over at 19 to the United States. I've been in the United States. I've been in Canada, as I said, with hockey. So you kind of get an idea. And then when I came over, I came because of hockey. So that's a common denominator of all of us. So it opened the world to me in a sense that I was drafted. I came to the team. I had teammates. I had plenty to do, training and traveling and playing hockey. So there was not as much time. First of all, I did have a mission or a job. I would never call it a job. I'm going to put quotation marks on it because I've never considered playing hockey a job. But I had a purpose. I had a team that I was a part of the team. So I had friends, automatic friends, and then I got to do what I loved. So it was nowhere as difficult as people would think. It was just fun because of the sports, and it doesn't have to be sport. It can be. If you're an artist and you come from halfway around the world, something will bring you here and it will make the transition much easier. Plus, at 19, it's much easier than when you're younger than older.
Yeah.
Well,
right.
I was going to say, I believe your dad was a world champion player and coach, if I'm not mistaken. What kind of advice did he give to you before you left, or did you check in with him a lot? I mean, you're 19, you were probably pretty mature, but not having him to lean on right beside you, was it hard for you, or?
I was probably too mature because they called me the oldest young man in hockey or youngest old man in hockey. I one or the other at that time. Yeah, I was quite almost too mature for my own good because we grew up in the communism, so we were pretty serious about getting out. So I was raised by my parents. They hired a private English tutor. So you're gonna defect the moment you are good enough to go. And fortunately, 6 months prior to me leaving, the revolution happened. The freedom came to Eastern Europe. So I didn't have to defect, but I left as soon as I could. And I was ready. My dad and my parents, with my dad and my mom, my family, my grandparents, they all did a great job preparing me for life. And so I was ready. I couldn't stay there any longer because I was 19, a little over 19 years old. And I was ready to go over and show the world and to prove the world and to me that I belong. And that was, so did I miss my dad or his? No, actually, he did such a good job. I was ready to be on my own. And as I said, prove it to myself, to him, to the world that him and I were really working together for a long time to succeed. And again, I there's not enough credit that I could give him. He's passed away about 10 years ago, but I think about him ever since he's passed away. I think about it probably more than I did when he was alive, and the things he taught me. And I still draw off of that wisdom to coach and mentor young people today.
That's awesome. That's
amazing.
Really cool.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you talk about the situation, the communism, all that stuff. People forget, here in the West, it's we're almost oblivious to certain conditions around the world. But like just that alone, the idea growing up in that environment, it has to build some level of strength and resilience, right? And it's just a different way of growing up. It's almost like we got it too easy. I would like to think
Yeah, again, I think it's a parent's responsibility. You don't want anybody to go through the harsh times so they appreciate it. But I'm a parent. I don't know if you guys are obviously a parent.
Yep.
It's a parent's responsibility, or the family, grandparents, to let the kids or young people know that it hasn't always been this good. Somebody worked very, very hard and sacrificed for them to have these opportunities. Again, it's not about having them what they want. It's having the opportunities to earn what they want. And if they want to be good at hockey, you give them the opportunity, and they have to earn it. But again, it's really simple. It's simple. We almost provide as a society, or in this country. I can speak for the United States. I've been here for 35 years. We give them, like, when my kid say I'm a successful businessman, and this is not a made up story. This happens all the time. And my kid can't make the team, so I'll start a new league. I start a new team, and he's going to be a star on that. That doesn't mean your kid is any better. He just he's just playing on a team that's not as good. He could make a team, so you create a B team, but he's a star there. How is that helping the kid? It's not. So, and again, people might think, oh, this is you made it up. I did not. I hear it and I see it all the time. And it's unfortunate that instead of telling him, you know what, you're not good enough for the A team, you need to work harder, and you might never be good enough to play there. So you need to do something else. But no, we diluted some more, and we created a less of a competition. So he feels, and you know what, the kids know it, the people know it. It's fake.
Yeah.
Smoke and mirrors, exactly. You're not teaching them anything, really. You know what I mean? It's delusion. It's like you're basically just you're postponing the inevitable. Eventually they're going to realize, they already know, but like, I'm really not good enough, and you're just extending this belief that you're good enough by, like you said, like creating a B team and being the big fish in a small pond. But yeah, it is delusional thinking, and there's something to be said about the grind, right? It's like you said, the merit that you have to earn it. There's no other way. You have to put it in, whether you succeed living out that dream and playing on the highest level or not. But at least at the end of the day, you can have that gut check. You look yourself in the mirror and be like, I poured everything I had into it, and it either worked or didn't work. And you should be fine with the results either way, because you actually poured your heart into it fully. It's just, we don't do that anymore. It's almost like we try and shortcut it. And not even just in sports and hockey. I just feel like that's like the nature of, the modern world almost. It's like, how can we shortcut the path? But
again, the responsibility goes to the adults. The kids don't know.
They don't know.
Like you said earlier, the kids were saying stuff that you were like, there's no way they came up with it. They heard it somewhere. And we have to be aware of it, that we are, whether you want or not, you are a huge influence. And us, players, former players, or successful players, we are a huge influence on a lot of people, because like when I was 6, 8 years old, I looked up to the guys who were 12. I want to be like them. When I was 12, I want to be like the guys playing, midget at 16. And then when I was 16, I looked up to the young I wanted to play professionally. You always look, especially in hockey, and it's a beautiful sport for two reasons. It's very humbling, and there's always somebody to look up to.
Right.
And we have to realize we have the responsibility to act and work and be a certain way, because there's somebody's looking up to us, and they're going to learn from us. And if we act like arrogant A's, then they're going to copy that, because, oh, this guy's very good, but he acts like, very arrogant. Yep. That must be the reason why he's good. No, it's a personal responsibility to not only to yourself, to the team, but the ones who come after us.
That's right.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. You're talking about looking up to guys. Were you an NHL fan as a kid growing up, and who did you look up to, or who is your favorite team player?
Oh, I was born in 71, so I was 6, 7, 8 years old, late 70s. Montreal Canadiens obviously was the most dominant team at the time. I didn't know enough, because how could I? But you just knew. Then in the 80s, when Peter Stastny left, he's Slovak, I'm Czech, but at the time it was a one country. So he became our biggest role model, biggest idol, because he left, and with his brothers, Peter was the best of them all, and he was so dominant. So we felt that just because we come from a small country doesn't mean that we can be ignored. And they gave us incredible inspiration. And I had Peter Stastny's one of them. Ivan Lendl was the other, the world class tennis player, because he defected as well. I don't know if it was the late 70s, early 80s, and became #1 player in the world. Again, not that our goals were to reach those levels, but we felt like we could push through and persevere in the big world outside of the Iron Curtain world, outside of the Eastern Bloc. And those two names come to my mind immediately, Peter Stastny and Ivan Lendl, because they were like the first ones we were aware that they defected and made it really, really big at the world's highest level.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to meet Ivan Lendl when I was my first year in hockey. I was right after I finished college. I was with the Florida Panthers in 93, 94, the inaugural year. And he happened to be there, probably obviously to see someone he knew, as a kid. And he was at a few of the games, actually, but I got to meet him, and he couldn't have been a nicer guy. I don't know if it was just fake, but he was such a nice guy.
I'm going to add to it. There's a reason. He's a huge hockey fan.
Okay.
And when I was drafted by Hartford Whalers, he was on the board of directors. But then you go back another 10, 20 years, well, maybe 20 years. He grew up watching my father and uncle play hockey. He idolized them because it's a small country. And, hockey, tennis, hockey, all the hockey players want to be good at tennis, and all the tennis players wanted to play hockey. They can't because you got to skate.
Right.
Tennis players might be good at playing tennis, but it's hard to get on skates. And so he idolized growing up. My dad and my uncle were huge legends there for the national team at the elite level. So it's a small world, it's a small country. People, successful people, or dedicated, hardworking people, they kind of come together no matter where they are. And so I know he was a huge hockey fan way back then. He kind of, my dad's legend brought us together, so that's how I ended up in Hartford. And it's a small world, but
that's cool.
I'm extremely proud where I was born and grew up and learned how to play hockey.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, super cool story. Yeah. I mean, you had some real success your first year. I think Nasty said 21 goals. How was it for you to adopt the North American game? It seems like you stepped right in and did your thing.
So my dad kind of prepared me for the. He didn't never played here, but he knew the style of. This is 1990, so the game wasn't what it is now, or even 10 years ago. It was a different game. Mm-hmm. So I was ready. I believe I was physically ready. I was mentally ready in a sense, because I just didn't care what other people think. I care about proving myself to me that I belong, and to the world that I belong. So some people didn't like that, because that's just like, hey, he's 19 years old. Not that I disrespected anybody, but I had a goal to accomplish, to belong, to show that I belong. And at times, maybe I didn't come across as the nicest or warmest guy, but I wasn't the most talented. I had to take the hard way. Right. I had to play rough. I had to play tough. I had to grind it out. I had to work my way through the lineups for many years before I really got to the pinnacle of my career. And then I spent, several years playing against the top players on the other team. So I embraced and enjoyed the challenge of coming over. What surprised me, the prejudice still towards the Eastern Europeans at that time, even on my team, in the league. For a few years, it took probably a good 3-4 years before people realized, we gotta take these guys seriously. Myself, Jaromir Jagr, Dominik Hasek. I don't know if they dealt with it. I believe they did as well. Robert Reichel. We all came at the same time. I can only speak for myself, but I faced a lot, and I'm not feeling sorry for myself at all. It made me better. It made me stronger. But it was there, and most people don't know about it because, if you're from Canada, from a certain province, or from a certain city, you get the benefit of the doubt. If you're a small town Czech Republic, you better hustle and show that you're worth staying here. Otherwise the judgment was different. The rules were different. it's okay. I persevere, and I wasn't going to go back. I could, but there's no way I was going to let my dad down by not persevering.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was going to ask you. You played on World Junior Czech teams, and you played with the Yogs, I believe, and I know you ended up playing with him in New York as well. Did you ever get to play with Dominik Hasek?
Yes, I did. So I played. I started playing professionally for my dad's team at 16 in Czech Republic. It was a very successful club team. Then I played for the national team at 18. So and then the team I played was an army team. So Hasek had to serve 1 year. Military service was mandatory, so he had to serve 1 year, and he played. We played together on a team, and we also played together on a national team. And I'll tell you what. He's a few years older, but what an inspiration! How hard he worked. I was just like in hockey, you're 19 and somebody's 24. They're like, wow, he's a veteran. He's played for 5 years or something. So Dominik was a little older. He's played for the national team, and the way he worked and how hard he worked, he was really an inspiration to me. And I think he's probably top 3, definitely top 5 ever, if not top 3 best goaltenders in hockey.
I was going to ask you where do you hold him as far as rating him all time, but
not non-traditional, but he was there to stop the puck.
That's any way he could.
Exactly.
Like
the effort was through the roof.
It was unbelievable. Yeah, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I was. So you played, like we said, you played hard for those first 2 years, and you end up going to Jersey. I got a kind of a funny question for you, and you already kind of answered it because you were, like you said, you were maybe too mature for your age. But fast forwarding, you go to the Devils. Now, Lou Lamoriello, as the equipment guys used to do this because they were like, if we say his name, he walks around the corner. Like they were always so afraid of, they were walking around eggshells. And I used to be like, how can you guys work like this? But anyway, I just wanted to ask you about Lou Lamoriello and what kind of effect he had on you, or if you were close with him. Did he leave you alone, or did you find the rules a little off, or not?
Well,
really?
I came from kind of a military family, sort of military upbringing. So to me, it was. I thought that everybody's like that. To me, it was a natural transition. More structure, more discipline is demanded of me or of us, the better. Right. I know most people, about 90% of people have a different opinion, but I firmly believe, especially for young men, boundaries, structure, and discipline is necessary, because there's plenty of space, time, and room to be creative within that structure. Okay, nobody was being held back, but ultimately you're there for one reason: you're part of the team. So this is the structure, this is the boundaries you have, and you perform the best of your abilities. And so I embraced it. I loved it, and I love it to this day. I'm a very structured, very disciplined person, even though I have all the time in the world, but I don't live that like that, because to me, I firmly believe men, especially, they need that. And so that's why we thrived in New Jersey. Not all. Some people had to be traded. He brought him as a free agent, drafted them, but they didn't work out because they just couldn't conform to the structure, to the team idea. A perfect example is the way we had to dress for practice or travel. And everybody's like, oh, he's a control freak, this and that. I'm like, no, it's not about control. It's about you being part of the team. If every one of us has our own way to expressing who they are as individuals, then we're a bunch of individuals. We're not a team. But if we all comply to the team rules, then we're a really good team. And again, I use those lessons that I learned in New Jersey. I used that with youth hockey and youth sports when I was participating as a coach or mentor, because again, you give people too much freedom, then everybody's going to make their own way, make their own agenda, make their own things, and that's not what team is about.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, I mean, I think you could look at those a couple different ways, but you're so right. To the freedom point, you give too much space, too much freedom, it takes away from the essence of the team. Right, you can still have the rigidness of the structure, and then promote the creativity and the individuality within the team. But if it's too loose, you know how guys are. They'll go in any which direction. Show up in flip-flops.
We are, or we should be, rebels by nature.
Right.
It's just the way it is. That's men should be rebellious, especially younger. Late teens, early 20s. I don't know too many of my generation who were just like compliant, and they were always some, but very few. But the great ones is basically channeling their rebelliousness into benefit of the team.
Right.
And I think that's, a lot of coaches that I experience, they want all. And when I watch the game now, you have most of the players are vanilla, okay?
Yeah.
And why do you have all these players on the team who are of the same kind of nature? Because it's easier for a coach. But the upside is not that good.
Right.
But if you're like 1995, the best team I ever played on, the championship team, we had a bunch of rebels on the team, okay? But we were told that if we played as a team, we will be as good as anyone, if not better, because we had it. But we had to kind of put it towards the team's goals, not our individual goals. And Claude Lemieux, Randy McKay, myself, Scott Stevens. I mean, these are not easygoing personalities, okay? These are tough guys in a sense of handling it. How do you put all this together? Stefan Richer, Mike Caluso, Kenny Danico, okay? Like, this is not a easy crew to manage. But Jacques Lemaire Robinson, he did an incredible job explaining to us to buy in. Just do it for these playoffs. Do it for this round. Do it for this game. And then you move on. And I always say, I want guys with personalities, because I'll work as a coach. If I'm a coach or a mentor, I'll work very hard to channel their, rebelliousness, their energy, their strength, their toughness. I'll do the best I can to channel it into a team, because the upside is huge. Vanilla players, exactly the first day, what they're going to do or how good they're going to be. But you don't know that with guys who have a little edge to them or a little grit.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, that's well said. Yeah. Interesting. I mean, interesting, but truthful perspective. It's so true. Yeah. You think about those teams that you had, like there's so many leaders, right? And how do you, and tough leaders and vocal leaders and, unique guys that, like, how do you tow them all in the same direction while they can still uniquely be themselves, but like, for the better good of the team? It's not an easy thing to do.
No, I call it a selling job. To sell them that the team comes first is the hardest thing. Mm-hmm. And that's why Phil Jackson, the basketball coach who won, 11, 12 championships, and he didn't win it with he won it with Michael Jackson and Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, then Kobe and Shaq in LA. Those are huge personalities.
Yeah.
Right.
So his skill was not necessarily tell them to play certain defense. His skill was to play together certain defense. And that's the undervalued or underrated skill. To take the top players, the Hall of Fame, future Hall of Famers like we had, like Scotty Stevens and Claude Lemieux and Martin Brodeur and Scott Niedermayer, and make them put the team first. How do you do that? And it's a skill, and it's a lot of work, but it can be done because good teams do that all the time.
Yeah, you're right. I got to tell you this, Bobby, it's kind of a funny story, but I'm sure you saw some of this stuff happen, or maybe you didn't. But one of my really good friends who worked for me before he came to the Devils, his name is Lou Lamoriello. Hopefully you remember him. He was one of the equipment guys.
Yes. The name sounds very familiar. Yes.
Yeah, Harry Bricker, and then obviously Dana was there, and so Louis got the job there, and I was there for a preseason game. And he was filling up some water bottles. And I'm standing there. I'm like, yo, buddy, what's up? Because I hadn't seen him in a little bit. And he's like, kept his head down. He's like, can you wait till I get to the back? Lou's over there watching me. Listen,
he
talk to me.
Lou was responsible for the team's performance ultimately.
Right.
He was hired to have a good team, to build a good team, and to run a good team or run it properly. So, and it's not only 4 guys have to do their job. It's everyone has to do. If you want to succeed in the playoffs, it is, Stanley Cup championship is probably one of the hardest, if not the hardest trophy to win. Look at how they battle. Like you watch Florida, how they grind it out every single game. Now it's 3rd year in a row. Hopefully they can pull it off. It is tough. The sweat, the blood, the bruises. It's like you can't just let people do whatever they want or hang out with friends when they're on the clock.
Right.
I mean, like I don't understand why is it so hard for people to understand that you need a lot of discipline to be successful at anything, not just hockey team.
Yeah.
You need to do your job when you're supposed to. You need to train the best you can when you're supposed to. You need to, like you sign up for it. You're basically volunteering to be good at something.
Yeah.
So what's so hard to understand?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I hear you.
Right.
I just laughed because like the story I was going to tell you, other than the water bottle one, was I think you guys are in the playoffs, and I think he said it was playoffs, and Patrick Elias asked Louis, "Hey, can you run to the press room and grab me like a couple biscuits or something, something to
Yeah.
eat? I'm hungry." And nowadays you can't. It's called the Never Hungry League, right, Riles? Like there's just food everywhere. Like,
Yeah.
but anyway,
All day.
today, but Lou didn't allow his staff to go into the press room. So Patrick Elias asked him if he could go get him a plate, like some bread and some meat or something. And so he's like, in his head, he's like, of course, I'll go do it right now. But he's like, Lou's probably going to see me and I'm going to get in shit. So fast forward, he goes in, he grabs a couple biscuits, puts some ham on there or whatever. As soon as he turns a corner, he almost runs right into Lou, puts his head down, just keeps going, gives it to Elias. And he went in and told the trainer, I think his name was Bill Murray.
Yes.
He said, Billy, I'm just telling you, Patrick asked me to go get him food. I went in the press room. I grabbed it. Lou saw me. I'm sure he's coming down. Literally 2 minutes later, calls Lou in the room. He goes, Lou, you're not allowed to go into the press room. And he's like, Patrick Elias asked me to go grab him a couple biscuits. And he goes, there was meat on that plate.
Yeah. Hey, listen. Best boss I ever had. It's just the way it is. We love. I think the guys who liked it there, they loved playing there because it was. I don't want to say easy, but it was fun because all you have to do is be prepared to play hockey or be prepared to practice, or it's like all the distractions taken away. You're just there to do what we love doing.
Yeah. I love that you're digging into this because I think it's super important for listeners to hear, whether it's the parents or the kids. But like, I think the word discipline gets lost, and it's like almost up for interpretation. But like the way you're describing everything, like from the start of the pod till now, it's just like this level of commitment that is so obviously ingrained into the way you prepare and show up every day. And that's why you got 2 Stanley Cups, and that's why you had so much success and you're mature at 19. Is like this idea of discipline is so much more than most people think. I think the world's gotten so soft, and we just want it easy, or just like we want it hard but not too hard, and this idea that like maybe it's a little looser over there, a little looser over there, and we're still gonna have the same amount of success. And the more I hear you speak and have more of an appreciation for Lou, because I was in the camp, I'm like, like, is some of this stuff necessary? There's always this question, but now hearing you speak, it makes a ton of sense when you get 23 guys buying into these simple, basic concepts, but like that actually do make a difference. They really do. At the end of the day, every single day showing up and having the same, regimen and the same energy, and guys just you said you signed up for it, so why not be like fully committed and fully disciplined? Yeah. And all these little things matter.
But of course, Lou picked players that he thought will thrive in that environment. Some of them had to move on or were moved or whatever. But that's again a responsibility. If you're running a team, you have to know the players. You can't just expect that just because this guy's a good right-handed defenseman, he's gonna fit your system.
Right.
His personality, and he did his homework on players' personality as well. And again, sometimes I would, if I was ever I would pick a player with lesser talent but better fit as far as personality and character to my team than somebody who's the top talent but he's difficult to deal with. Because when you're at the draft table, I mean, there's an 18-year-old who's absolutely phenomenal talent, but you've talked to his junior coach or his college coach, and he's like, he's difficult to deal with, or he's difficult to coach. And there's a player who doesn't have that kind of talent, and he had to work that much harder. You're like, I'm taking that guy. Sure, because that guy's I can coach him. The ultra talented player, it's hard to pass on those players, But if you're building a team, you sometimes have to make those tough decisions, and that's part of the running a team or putting a team together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I guess that's why Lou had so much success and why he's, well, up until I guess like a month ago, is still, holding a general manager's job. He's just he knows what he wants. He knows how to build teams, and to your point, he finds the right players to fit the mold to the best of the ability that will create that team, hopefully win a championship.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's great insight. We appreciate that. We want to get your thoughts. We can maybe moving on a little bit. Obviously, a big rivalry against the Flyers. How many times you played them in your? Well, I think 11 years total. You went back to Jersey your final year. Any memories going into Philly? We were playing the Flyers as much as you have, like that come to mind.
There's about thousands.
Top 3, top 5.
So the first memory is I was still with Hartford, and I think it might be still going on. It went on throughout my career. We played a Saturday morning game at 11 because there was some kind of a carnival or something. Is it Flyers Wives have some kind of a fundraiser?
Oh, yeah.
And that was like, I still remember to this day, it was 1990, 91, the first game in Philly. And we're playing at 11 in the morning. At that time, there was no afternoon games. There was maybe a year at 1 or 2. That's different. 11, you got to get up early to get your meals, walk around, get going. It was awful. I don't know how it go. I don't know if that was the game that I first time came across Ron Hextall, came across his crease and paid the consequences. But that's my first start in Philly. 11 o'clock morning game. Not good.
Wow.
It took a period and a half to get in the rhythm.
Yeah.
But, and then as I was traded to New Jersey, the stakes got higher and higher because it's just, you get on the bus in New Jersey, in northern New Jersey, and you get off the bus at the Spectrum at a time. And it was a great, I have so many memories. I can't really pick 1 or 2, but I'll say one thing. There's a lot of Flyer fans who dislike me and players, but I don't hold it against them because I love playing the Flyers. It's really, I played also 2 years for the Rangers, so I had 13 years of games against Flyers. 1 year, I believe we played. There was sometimes they were making changes in the schedule. This is early 90s. We played the Flyers 9 times in the regular season, and I think twice in the preseason. And so it leaves a mark on you, literally. It was great. And, 95 at the crash line, we played quite a bit against the Legion of Doom. That 2000, the conference championship. Just preseason game. I was always on the bus to go to Philly for preseason games because we it could be like mid-September, like a second game of the preseason. There's still 100 guys in the camp, but they would always throw some guys on the bus to go to Philly because you knew it wasn't going to be easy, preseason or not. So I just can't say enough about playing the Flyers. Fans, you have to respect them, but we were not always treated well, but that's okay. That's what makes Philly Philly. But I think times have changed, and I would like to see the Flyers to be better. I would like to see the Rangers be better. The Devils, they made the playoffs, but I think it makes it a better league if those two teams are doing well. And unfortunately, last couple of years, or hopefully not too many years going forward, I would like to see those teams thrive a little more because it's needed for hockey. It's needed. When you look at this year, Rangers, Flyers, Penguins not making the playoffs, it is hard to get excited.
Yeah,
I agree.
Mm-hmm. Well, but building off that, you mentioned Scott Stevens earlier. We had Eric Lindros on the pod last week, and we just wanted to ask you your thoughts. Well, obviously, you play with them too, the Rangers. Yes. Just your thoughts on the Scott Stevens hit, and then maybe speaking to Big E as a teammate there later in your career.
So I'm going to talk about Eric first. It's I played against him how many years? Almost 10 years. As far as from in New Jersey time, when I was in New Jersey, he was in Philly, and it was the hardest. He was the strongest, most skilled big guy that I've ever played against. He was I don't know how he was that fast for the size he was. It was incredible, and the shot, the quickness, the hands. Darn, he was just an amazing hockey player. And I remember him. This is going late '80s, or yeah, like you were talking about World Juniors. I started playing against him at the World Juniors, maybe '89, maybe '90. So we had a long path together. But again, it's a heck of a hockey player, amazing hockey player. I always thought, I was a big guy as well, but I didn't have the hands, I didn't have the quickness, I didn't have the explosiveness. I'm like, it must be like a natural. He must be natural. Just being. He moved like a little guy, but he was 240 pounds, maybe 230.
Yeah.
I don't know what he was. Like, it was amazing, and that challenged me to be at my best. And those were fun times. Not always good, but always fun, exciting. Because trust me, it took a lot of everything to be on top, to be able to just keep up, sort of, because he was that kind of a player. So, and then I ended up playing with him in New York, which was great because I got to know him as a person, and he's a great guy. For all those years, it was a tough rivalry, tough battles, and then you meet up on the same team. I'm like, wow, great guy, And to this day, I'm like, wow, that was pretty fun to be able to not only play against him but also with him.
Right.
Then you ask about the hit. I mean, what's there to say? I mean, I think everything has been said. It's what I did a little bit of TV and radio after I retired. Very little. I just didn't. I didn't work out, but sometimes people on the radio or TV, they would be like, "Oh, it was an intent to hurt or intent to injure."
Right.
And I said, "Listen, it's easy. It was not intent. The intent was to hit somebody hard enough to stop them from playing their game, not necessarily injure. Because trust me, if you go out there and try to hurt people, you're gonna get hurt yourself. That's how hockey works.
Right.
I'm not going to necessarily talk about the hit, but I always thought that when they throw that intent to injure around, they were not in that situation. I was in a situation where I injured players a few times. I've been suspended. I was in a situation where the player injured me. I think what you want to do is to kind of put them in a place where they're not as effective, especially when you're dealing with the top players. So Scotty was playing hard, and it was, I think it was in the conference finals. It was a tight battle, 7-game series. And was he trying to knock him out to cause brain trauma? Absolutely not. But he was trying to assert himself and say, this is my space. This is my, spot on the ice where I dominate. Unfortunately, I remember like it was yesterday. It was terrible. I'm glad Eric recovered, and went on to play. But again, the intent to injure is, let's take it out of our vocabulary, unless it's really clearly defined that somebody went out there and tried to injure players. And I don't think it happens often, if ever, because it's way too easy in a game like hockey. There's so many ways you can injure a player. I think the intent is to be as assertive and aggressive as you can be within the rules. But of course, players like us, we cross the line all the time. If we weren't crossing the line, we wouldn't be the players we were. But it's not intentional. It's just the intent to be the best you can be and limit the other team or other players to minimum impact.
Right.
Yeah, and at that time as well, Bobby, that was allowed. I mean, you may say it was a couple seconds late, but at that time of the game,
you don't come across the blue line.
Right.
You don't. And, it is unfortunate. Luckily, Big E's is doing well and all that. You hate to see a guy get hurt like that. I don't care who it is. Even if it's a guy you just can't stand, you just don't want to see something like that. And
it's much easier to get hurt yourself than seeing your teammates or somebody else on the ice. Right. I've gotten hurt, and it was like, you just like, fix me up, stitch me up, or fingers going the wrong direction. You're dealing with it. But when you see it on others, it's a lot more painful. It hurts a lot more than it hurts you.
Yeah, for sure. And I do agree with your point there. I mean, the intent to injure thing, like there's no way. He played a rugged game. They both did, but I mean, Scott Stevens, you probably seen that hit. I mean, I don't know how many dozen times. It was just it was the risk you're willing to pay by cruising through the middle of the ice, right? It was just the nature of the game. And unfortunately, it worked. It didn't work out in Big E's favor in that case, and it's just I mentioned that is because it was obviously a monumental moment and hit, and obviously in Big E's case, I think it was one of the big straws that breaks the camel's back type of deal. But just that brute force that Scott Stevens played with, like, and Kenny Danico, there are probably a few others there, but like, this level of accountability that they kept in the game, right? Which I almost feel like it's not part of the game as much anymore. This level of accountability, not that we're going to see guys like that anymore. And the fighting is obviously diminished, but like just this level of accountability that was imprinted in the game, that you knew, like when you're playing, like you're playing guys like that, it's like there's certain things you can't do. Price.
One of the great things about hockey is it's a humbling sport, and you can be humble because the game is always bigger and better than yourself, than anybody. Look at what happened. Gretz held their record of goals for so long, and then Ovechkin comes along and breaks it. It takes nothing away from both of them. They're amazing, great hockey players. But it just shows you that there's always somebody coming in the game who might be stronger and faster and smarter and more skilled. But that itself humbles as well. It's not necessarily the brute physical force, which should be part of it, because we all need humbling at times. I need it myself at times. Whether I got it or not is another story. But you also, even the talented guys or the goal scorers get humbled because there's always somebody who scores more goals or faster. So I love hockey more than anything, probably for that humbling factor, because it kept us grounded, and we all needed it.
Yeah, it's a great point.
Yeah, it is. I have a question about your time with the Rangers. Like, well, in your whole career, not really necessarily the Rangers, but when you signed as a free agent, I think in 2002, some of your teammates, man, I was looking at your teams, and you had a fellow Czech, Peter Nedved, who I had here as a player in Philly, although he was commuting back and forth from New York City, which I couldn't. Actually, Riles played with him too.
I played with him,
but Lindros, Messier, Pavel Bure was on that team. Brian Leach, you had Richter in net. Just some big time players. I think the second year there, you led them in scoring as well. You were a shutdown centerman. You shut down a lot of guys, big face-off guy you were. But what did you take the most pride in your game?
What was most important to me, to show up and be my best every day. And it's practice, it's optional skate, it's preseason games. I really took pride. That's my dad played the same way. Yeah, some guys have good shot or this and that. You have skills. I thought I had good skills, but they were not. I had to show up and be my best. I had to win the face-off, get on a forecheck, be assertive, be aggressive, and then I created a time and space for my skills to be displayed. But unless I did the work, the hard work, the dirty work, I was just an ordinary player. So what my biggest strength was my work ethic and my discipline, back to the word, to do that every single day. And I can say one thing that I'm proud of is that I was never not the best I could be. And again, it's just not the games or playoffs. It's practices, and it's optional skates, and it's showing up on time on the bus or on a plane. Just be the best professional I could be, and that's good things happen that way.
Yeah, right.
Well, you played over 1,300 games. I think you had, I think you have it down. You had it down to a science, and unbelievable career. I kind of got a weird question for you. I know you're only 9 years old, but the 1980 Olympics, ice hockey, Miracle on Ice US. It did a lot for the growth of hockey. I know it was a long time ago, but do you remember watching that, or were you able to watch any of that?
It did a lot for hockey growth in the United States. It was
Yes.
not that big of a deal in Czechoslovakia because we despised the Soviets. Okay,
Yeah.
and again, years down the road, when I played with the Russian players in the NHL, we became friends, and we had so much in common, coming from the same part of the world. But at the time, because they occupied my country, my home country, a few years prior to that, like, we don't care if the Soviets win or lose.
Right.
They're too good to begin with. They're just dominant force in hockey. So and it was too far removed. There was no satellite phones or satellite TV, nothing. So we
Yeah.
might have heard of it. I don't really remember it. I'm reminded that game by Americans to this day.
Yeah.
They
Sorry.
say it must have been great for you that in the miracle. As I said, I really didn't care, and I don't care to this day. It didn't meant nothing for me. What meant a lot to me or the country is I'm going to change the subject. 1968, the Soviet Union and the Warsaw Pact, all the communist countries, occupied Czechoslovakia because we had a democratic process happening there, and they didn't like it. So they occupied us with tanks and airplanes and troops. And 6 months after the occupation, the Czechoslovakian national team played the Soviets at the World Championship. The World Championship was supposed to be in Prague, but they moved it to Sweden because we were under occupation. It was just not a good time to hold hockey World Championship. So my dad was the leader on the team. My uncle was probably the best player on the national team, and they played the Soviets and they beat them twice in the same tournament. Never happened before. I don't think it's ever happened since. And this gentleman, Ethan Shiner, he came across. He's a political science professor at University of California, Davis, and he came across these games, which was the most important games in the history of Czechoslovakian hockey. And he just wrote a book about that time and about Czechoslovakian hockey and communism. My dad and my uncle played huge role during that. My dad was a rebel. He was a very outspoken anti-communist, and he was suspended from the national team several times for his outspokenness against the regime. They took him back in because they needed him. He was that good. And he wrote a book about it, and it's called Freedom to Win. And I would love if you guys could post it on your website, or it's
sure.
a really, this gentleman who's American from California, he captured the atmosphere of the nation throughout the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, as a hockey country better than anybody could. Not speaking the Czech language, not being from there, he really did an incredible job writing that book. And it's a hockey it's a true story, but I would genre, it would be hockey thriller. It's that riveting, and I lived it. My dad lived it, my uncle, and there's also about my generation, about Jágr, Reichel, and us coming over. So as the progress of the Czechoslovakian hockey, about the Stastny brothers. So it's a really, really good hockey, not only hockey book, but it's most of it is centered around hockey because Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia is hockey crazy nation.
Right. Yeah, we actually had that written down to ask you. Our good friend Jill Lipson
Yes.
was telling us about that. So we actually had that. We were going to ask you about that. I got to go off script here again because I was remembering something else my buddy Lou Centeni told me. I don't know if you remember this, but it was kind of made me laugh. He was like, Bobby was like one of the biggest eaters. Like, he was a big guy, right? So he loved to eat. And he said, you guys were at a Brazilian steakhouse, and it's where you turn a token.
Yes.
If you turn it red. Well, he said, if you turn it red, it means you've had enough. If it's green, you keep bringing food.
They keep serving, yeah.
And he said they kind of taped two coins together, so yours was always green. And the boys.
That's correct. And you know what? And they brought it and they put it in my locker the next day in the locker room. And I thought, actually, I took the guys out for dinner because I was like, hey, all the single guys or the guys whose wives are at home, Canada, wherever, they went home. It was at that time of the year of the seasons, like, hey, let's go all to New York City. There is a steakhouse. I've been there before. Plenty of meat, plenty of good wine for the ones who drink it. So we all went out, a bunch of us, and they took those cards or those tags, and they taped them together and they put it in my locker the next day. And they were like, Bobby's card is always green. There's a,
Yeah.
and that was, I remember that's a great story because the guys, as you guys know, hockey players are funny.
Yeah.
And that was one of the great jokes they played on me.
That's a good one.
It was pretty funny
More
when he told
meat.
me. It was
More meat.
Bobby, have you been watching the playoffs?
Yes, I have. Like we mentioned before, the Rangers are out. The Devils lost. Rangers didn't make it. Flyers are not playing. So I've been watching mostly Florida. I find them exciting to watch. It's a gritty hockey. Again, what's so good about them? Discipline. They show up to play every night. They work hard. And some games they lose, but most of them they win. And this is the third year in a row. I've been in a situation where we went to the final. We won the 1 year. We went to the finals next year. We did it the opposite way to Florida. And then the third year, we just ran out of juice because it is so demanding. But I'm hoping that they got under. Last night's game, they really played well. Seems like they started cracking the Toronto spirit. Toronto Maple Leafs thought to this, up to last night that they have something going. And last night it was just like, no, it's harder than that. You got to do it. You got to commit a little more. And I see watching these games when guys kind of cut the corner ever so slightly, it reflects at the end of the game or at the end of the series. You cannot do that in the playoffs. It is very hard to understand unless you go through it. But if I had if I had an opportunity, I would explain to players, you cannot cut the corner at any given moment in the playoffs because it's going to come back to haunt you. You're showing the other team you're not fully committed. They will exploit that. And Florida's doing that right now because there's times where players are from Toronto, they want to play their game. No, you got to play playoff hockey. And again, I'm a big fan of Florida because it's the only team that I can relate to the way they play. And hopefully they continue to do well. And of course, there's Edmonton, who's so exciting to watch.
Yeah. Do you think Edmonton and Panthers, is that your prediction to go to the finals again?
I think Edmonton's going to come out of the West. And I think it's very hard for Florida because it's their third year in a row.
Yeah.
It is, there's a attrition is a part of it, but they're stubbornly hardworking. So I really appreciate Florida Panthers for the last 2.5, almost 3 years, because they make the game better because that's how we all remember it. And they play that game in today's environment. And yes, there might be more exciting players like Edmonton Oilers, but we also need teams like Florida to show us that you don't need the high-end talent on 3 different lines. You just need the high-end effort, like on all lines.
Yeah, you're so right. Yeah,
well
we
said.
talked about this before you hopped on, like top to bottom, the way they're structured, but like the discipline, as you mentioned. And then I did want to lead into Bobrovsky, like the goaltending piece. Obviously, you had Marty Brodeur there for years and years, and having that anchor back there. How important is that going down the stretch?
You know what? For a long time, after I retired in 2009. For a long time, it like great goalies were not necessary. And I think we're back in the era where you need the goalies winning games for you. And Bobrovsky did it last year. I mean, he was amazing, and he's doing it again. And he needs to keep doing it because the guys in front of him do everything they can to win, and he needs to do the same. And then you look at the other teams, and you start questioning: are these goalies even good enough to be starters? Because they're letting some goals in. They're like, that's causing the game. The games are all close. And if you have a goalie that lets in 2 bad goals in a series, that could make 2 games. You can't make that up.
That's right.
It's true.
We talked about this before. We've had a few people on talking about like the actual number 1 goaltenders in the NHL is probably like 15. Like you know what I mean? Like half legitimate 15. Number 1s to what you're saying.
The idea to say, we have 2 good goalies. No, you have none.
Yeah.
If you don't have a number 1 goalie, you don't have a good goalie.
That's right. That's crazy. It's true though. It's so true. It's so true. Oh, that's funny.
Oh man, but it's an important piece of the puzzle. And obviously, you mentioned Hasek earlier, and obviously Marty Brodeur, one of the best ever played, and just being just being that anchor back there, again, when you guys have an off night or an off shift and there's a breakdown for some odd reason, like you know that's secure, and you're probably
it is a huge difference. I'm thrilled to see that great goalies matter again. That's a T-shirt, Great goalies matter.
Yeah, right.
Thank you for that. I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding.
Because it was part of winning. Your goalie has to be the backstop you need, and the game is back in a place where great goalies matters, and I'm very happy to see it. Even do I care about goalies? Are goalies? They're their own world. They're their own society. But you need them to win, and that's good, because that tells you that it needs everybody on the team.
That's right.
Bobby, I think in the playoffs you played against Hasek, and I think it was when he had 70 saves and a shutout, like 3 or 4 overtime. Were you guys just like scratching your head, like, what do we got to do to get the puck by?
We were scratching our head, and that's 1994. I believe first round in the playoffs. He was with Buffalo. I was with New Jersey, and I got to play boatload of hockey because 2 of our centers got hurt. It was a quadruple overtime, I believe, 0-0, and I had a bunch of shots. I broke 4 sticks. I remember that because it's like 2 games in a row, and I got to play a lot, and then we lost on a who was that? What was it? I remember who it was, the player, but 70-something shots over the course of 2+ games, 4 overtimes, and he was doing his thing. He was just stopping the puck. How? I can't tell you, but he stopped them all. It was a 1-0 game. It was it's hard to forget games like that. As I said,
right.
It was in the old auditorium, Buffalo Auditorium.
Yeah, it was so cool.
Awesome.
I was lucky too. You had already been in the league by the time I got there, but like I said, my first year was 93, 94. I was so lucky. I was with the Panthers that year, and I traveled a bit because we had one of our guys. My dad was the head trainer, and he had hurt his back, so I was traveling quite a bit. I got to go to the old Boston Garden, which I never thought I'd get to. I got to see a game there, a few in the odd. Even when I was in Philly, we played there in the playoffs. Those buildings were so cool in Winnipeg, the old Winnipeg barn.
Yeah,
with the Queen. With the Queen, yeah. But man, what a career you had. And like I said, over 1,300 games, and just everything you saw, the players you play with, man, it's truly remarkable. And I've never heard a bad word about you. You just then
you weren't around then.
Yeah, I was around. No, the people I've talked to, though, honest to God, like you just in the way you play the game. I just remember you being a beast. Like it was you were fun to watch. You were definitely fun to watch.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Well, we appreciate you, Bobby. I know we're creeping over an hour here, but Freedom to Win, is there the website? You want to say it again? We're going to push
it's freedom. The title is Freedom to Win. It's actually for the tennis fans on the podcast is Martina Navratilova. When he was interviewing her for the book, the great women's tennis player. She, there's a story. I don't want to make a mistake saying that, but I think the title came sort of through conversation with her, and it's just Freedom to Win, because the only freedom that we really had was to win when we played the game. Being occupied, being a small country against the big tyranny of Soviet Union, and great book, great thriller. A lot of great hockey games. Not Miracle on Ice. That's not in the book, but a lot of other great hockey games. But I would appreciate it's on Amazon. It's everywhere you buy books, and it's. I would appreciate a little help with it, and it's been great.
Well, definitely, we'll put it out there. And I do have to tell you this as well. My last year with the Flyers, we went to Prague and opened the season up. We had Jake. I had a bunch of Czech guys, love them. Radko Gudas, Jake Voracek, good buddies. But I remember us going to dinner the first night we were there. Jake took us to one of his favorite spots downtown, and he was like, I was sitting beside him. He goes, "Nasty Bear." He's like, "You see why I'm fat? Look at this food." And I'm like, because he would go home in the summer and eat. He was always, everyone always joked around with Jakey about like he wasn't probably he wasn't
The fittest guy?
picture of fitness, physical fitness, but he could play the game. And
that's it.
You were fit, so I wasn't saying that because of like how much you could eat because you're a big man, but it was just funny. Jakey's like, you see why I'm fat, guys? Like I come here all summer. This is how I eat. So
I played against Gudas's dad, and he was just as hard to play against as his son.
Really? Oh,
yeah,
that's awesome.
Not surprised.
And I played with him also on the national team, so we played against each other. We were on the rival teams at the club level, but we played together on national team. And yeah, Czech is pretty awesome. We went last year with the family. We go in a couple of weeks.
Oh, cool.
The food is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a blast. I had so much fun in Prague. It was a great time. But we Bobby, we do appreciate you, man, for joining us, taking the time to do it, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on, and hopefully the Flyer fans will accept me as, I provided them with some entertainment over the years.
There you go. You definitely did. That's for sure.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby. Appreciate
All right,
you.
buddy.